to Sprite Guard Plays Zenith. This is a proof of concept run for a speedrun in Zenith that I've been working on. I did some speedruns before on this channel, but they were of a category that I realized nobody else was running and didn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm going to be trying to complete all of the missions in the game. And it's going to start out pretty much the same way that it has before. I've worked out some routing, so there is a speed run of every mission except the last one. That is 1622, so that is the time that I'm going to try and beat, though that run was a low percent. They did not use the speed key at all in that run, so this will be slightly different. I'm going to try and get to the moon as quickly as possible, and I'm also going to be at the same time trying to level up my Catco monsters as much as possible. So I got really good speed out the beginning of this, and I'm not sure exactly how I did it, but that ended up giving me a really good boost for this beginning bit. And then I've been working on getting this done faster and smoother, though I made a mistake there that probably added a second to my time. So there's a few different categories that people have run, though not very many people have run this game at all. One is just to get to the moon in as little time as possible. And with glitches you can do it in 1:30. Without glitches it takes about 5 minutes, but you don't complete any missions that way. So my goal here is to complete every single mission that you're given. And the last mission is to get 50 kills in the Catco Monsters game, so that's why I'll be running the game quite a lot. Sometimes I'll be ignoring the game and just letting it run so that my character levels up magic and defense a little bit without my doing any input. Now, here, I always try to stay on the wall as much as I can, but sometimes I fall off, and I was actually having a lot of trouble before of getting distracted by the minigame and then falling off of that wall, so I had to make sure that I was prioritizing where I put my attention, and then I tried to grab onto that wall a little bit earlier than was wise, but I managed to make it through. So I have to do that trial and one more trial in order to unlock the speed loop mission. And that doesn't unlock until I've done a couple of the other challenges. Since I have to go to the speed loop to get to the moon, I want to have that unlocked before I go up there, because otherwise I would have to go to the speed loop twice. Now, I've been working out some routing here, getting this as fast as possible so that I'm going up this hill around 300, and then I come around here and loop around this way, and that allows me to get the character, the hot point that I've been calling Mr. Sunshine, because he's under a billboard that says Sunshine. That one is very difficult to get, and I figured out a way to get it without losing any speed, which has been a problem. So now I'm going to do the city floor challenge in order to unlock the speed loop challenge. And that way, when I go to the speed loop, I can complete that challenge before I head off to the moon. And then once I've gone to the moon, I'll have the speed key, and I'll be able to finish the last few challenges very, very quickly. So I've gotten to the point where I can do this mission pretty consistently, but I overshot one of the boxes and wasn't able to make it back to it. If I'd rewound, I would have had plenty of time, but I didn't realize that, and so I ended up losing quite a lot of time on this mission in particular, because I had to do it twice. So that was unfortunate, and that gives me an easy place to improve my time, especially since I shaved 10 seconds off of my first split. So that is going to be difficult to match again. And so having this be someplace that I can easily shave some time off And especially because I finished this really at the last second. I only have 1 second left. So I could shave 5 seconds off of that just, or maybe not 5 seconds, but 3 or 4 seconds just by completing that trial faster, and then a good, 10 or more seconds by only doing it once. So now I'm going to try and level up my Catco monster a little bit more, but I find that window being open pretty distracting, so I will close it. Now that was just perfect. I was really happy with landing this. I've been working really hard on routing this better and getting more consistently launched up to the speed loop. Now sometimes I can get up to the speed loop in only 1 or 2 jumps. In this case it took me 3, and it took me a bit of rewinding and positioning myself to hit this jump in exactly the right way. But once I hit it in the right way, it got me up to this platform up here, and then I had to adjust my height and adjust my gravity going into it in order to grab onto the wall to build up a little bit more speed so that I could make the final 2 jumps. So if I could have made this in 2 or 3 jumps, that could shave another several, almost a minute I think, maybe tens of seconds at the very least. I think it's possible to get to the speed ring in only a single jump. I know it's possible to do it in only 2 jumps. And I think even 3 jumps would be an improvement here. I have gotten from this platform that I'm on right now, I've managed to launch from it directly into the speed loop. And I tried to do that here, but I didn't really have enough lift, and so I ended up going in this way, which lost me a bit of time. So that's another place that I can improve. So this is, as much as this is an improvement on the last few runs I've done, there's still a lot of places that I see where I can improve. Now, this run that I'm starting here, I think, got me really seriously distracted, and that lost me a lot of time, and I got kind of confused there. So that's another really obvious place to save a lot of time, especially because I didn't really make much progress with that playthrough of Catco Monsters. So now I need to get as high up on the speed loop as I can while still being able to pass through the speed loop mission box. And the box doesn't quite go high enough to go straight from that mission to the moon. I have to actually reposition myself in between. Now, I made one mistake in a previous playthrough that ended up really frustrating me and killing what would have otherwise been a personal best run, because I played on the desert level instead of the grassy farm level. So this time I'm on the farm, and so I made sure to do that, and that makes the gathering points much, much easier. So I'm just going to be playing this game for a while as I build up speed. I need to get 2400 speed in order to pass the speed loop mission, and then I'm going to need another 18 or 1900 speed to do to get to the moon. So until then, it's just going to be leveling up defense and magic and attack as much as I can. So I'm just going to... So now I've finished the speed loop. Now I need to get up high enough on the speed loop that I can jump out of it in a single jump. And then I have to build up enough speed to make it into the speed rail. So micromanaging between when I'm focusing on the game and when I'm focusing on the minigame is going to be another source of difficulty. And And then I got pretty smoothly into this on my first try, which was pretty nice. But then I was having a little bit of trouble here getting up high enough to get onto the rail. And so that took a number of tries and a little bit more messing around than I really would have liked. And I was actually a little bit worried that I would land on the rail so far forward that I might not reach escape velocity. And so there was a little bit of tension here, but I still managed to work on the minigame a little bit and level my monster up a little bit. Switching between the minigame and the main game was a source of a lot of uncertainty because I was never sure that I'd be able to switch back. And so I had a lot of trouble knowing what the most efficient way to level up my monster would be without missing out on the other missions that I was working on. But I think I did pretty well because I actually ended up pretty strong. So it was just a matter of... I actually managed to get the monster game high score, in a single try. I actually got it in almost in one try that I wasn't even expecting, but I made a mistake that I will point out later. Because you can see I'm getting a pretty good score here. I'm at 3,200, and I'm about to get the Hawk's Nest mission. And I realized that I was doing very well, and so I started watching my score because I didn't actually want to finish this mission before the other missions. There's not actually any real reason why I shouldn't have done that, but I wanted to do my splits in the order that I had set them up. So once I got to a high enough score, I decided to put the game away and just resume it. And that would have actually worked very, very well, and I would have gotten a much better time if I had actually done it that way. So once I drop down into the Hawk's Nest, I shoot over this way to get the super jump. I decided to do it this way because the super jump mission doesn't unlock until you have done some of the intro missions, some of the career missions. And so I figured that probably the best way to get back to it was to get the speed key and then set it up that way. And so this route that I figured out is, I think, a big improvement over the 1622 route that I found on YouTube. You could argue that the other route was a low percent route, that it was a no debug route, but the debug key is so much a part of the game that I thought it was just wiser to use it. And now these last two missions can be done very quickly. I overshot the hotbox there, which was a little bit of a mistake, but not too big. These missions become much, much easier when you have the speed key, but you have to be a little bit careful because the dunes will glitch out a little bit and you can actually clip through them. So that's why I'm not going very fast here, is I was really worried about clipping through a dune and not being able to hit this jump here. And I managed to hit that on my first try, which has been a little bit of a sore spot. And then once that's done, I can just come through here and grab these boxes incredibly quickly. So that was that done. Now here's where I made the biggest mistake of the game, is I didn't trust myself to find the hill hop hitbox, and so I left the game that I was playing, that was only a few points away from victory, in order to get the arrow to the hill hop, even though I was already pointed straight at it. So that was a huge mistake that you'll see cost me a lot of time. So the hill hop mission itself, not very difficult, but again I have to be careful about not clipping through the dunes. And I actually managed to do it without rewinding, which was a first. And I turned a little bit too far there, so that's something that I can look forward to changing. And then I took a little bit of a long time getting to a stop here and pulling up the game again. But that was kind of when I realized what a big mistake that I'd made and that I would have to start all over again. So I could have stopped the timer like right here almost. It would have been 15 minutes. It would have been a great time with still a lot of room for improvement. So it's really just a matter of finishing out this game. I try to leave a lot of food on the ground because I do have a maximum health. And so I want to only grab the food after I've taken some hits. And I don't think the food actually disappears. So I didn't have to worry about that. I just had to worry about whether or not I had actually taken any damage that I would then recover from. So that's pretty much everything that went into this run. And I'm really looking forward to running this. I would really love to get some competition in running this category. I think this is the most natural category because it completes all of the missions and then it actually unlocks the camera, which is the last unlock that you get that I'm aware of. I don't know what happens if you get all of the capsules because the one time... Well, if you've seen my complete series, I couldn't find the last capsule, and I gave up. I got frustrated, it stopped being fun, and I went back to speedrunning. And there's kind of a narrative that in speedrunning that you do everything there is to do in the game, and then you want to still keep playing the game even though you've done everything, and so you start speedrunning. That's not how I got into speedrunning. I found speedrunning interesting for itself on its own merits. And I love Zeneth for the speedrunning in it, for the going fast, the doing tricky jumps, and that is what attracted me about Zeneth more than the hunting for collectibles. So even though I hadn't done everything in Zeneth, even though I hadn't exhausted its potential, speedrunning it was the way I was most interested in playing it. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.
May it received.